Welcome to Powwow Life, episode 10 for August 10th, 2016. Thanks everybody for joining us again tonight. Really appreciate you being a part of the show. Looks like we've already got a great crowd coming online and we've got a really great show for you tonight. So I'm excited to do this. Got a really special guest. First, I want to make a couple of announcements. We appreciate you all again tuning in, and please, if you like the show, please go out and support the show by going to www.powwownation.com. Join our thing there. You can support the site and support PowWows.com and bring more content like this. We're also doing another giveaway tonight. We're giving away more lanyards, brand new Powwow Life lanyards. Can you see that? Great for the powwow, great for school starting back if the kids need to wear it at school. Just go to www.powwows.com/powwowlife10, and there's a form there you can enter to win. We'll also have all the show notes there, so you can get links or anything we talk about tonight. You can find all those at the show. All right. Also got a really special announcement. This is exciting. And I'm going to bring it up and show you all now. Let's see if I have that. Well, I don't have it loaded yet. But next weekend, August 19th through the 21st, we will be streaming live from the Shakopee Powwow up in Minnesota. So be sure to check PowWows.com next weekend, August 19th through the 21st. We're going to stream live their powwow. And we're even going to go over to the Mall of America and stream live when they do some dance exhibitions there. So you don't want to miss it. It's going to be really exciting. Lots of great dancing and singing there. The MCs are Wallace Coffey and Ruben Littlehead, so you know it's going to be a great event. Those guys are always awesome on the mic. Drums, you've got Northern Cree and Iron Boy, Midnight, Young Bear, The Boys, Cree Confederation, Kozad, Young Buck, Scissortail. This is going to be a packed powwow with great dancers and singers. Don't want to miss it. Next weekend, you can see the whole thing on PowWows.com. Watch the entire thing live from your bedroom, from your couch, or lay in the bed in your pajamas and watch a powwow, or dance along with us in your living room. A lot of people like to do that too. So August 19th through the 21st. Also next weekend, August 19th through the 21st, we're going to have some other stuff coming, and you'll learn more about that in a minute. So I want to take a minute and say thanks to everybody. Shirley, appreciate you tuning in. Christina, Alice, Adam, Laurie, Joe. Wow, we've got a lot of you coming in. Please post your comments there. This show's for you. You can chat with us live, and when we bring our guest on, you'll be able to ask him questions and interact with him. So that's going to be great. So speaking of, our guest tonight is Adam Sings in the Timber, and if you've seen any powwow photography on Facebook, you have seen his stuff. He's super popular. His photos get shared all over the place. We've shared lots of them, and people love seeing his photography. I've actually been able to shoot with him a couple times and visit with him. Fantastic photographer. Adam, welcome to the show. Not yet. We had him muted. Sorry.
Check. There. Can you hear me now?
We can. So
all right.
Adam, thanks so much for being on the show. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Cool. Well, for people who don't know you, would you mind taking a moment and introducing yourself?
Yeah, I'll give it a try. It's always odd for me to talk about myself, but I'll do my best. My name is Adam Sings in the Timber. I am Crow. I'm from Montana. I recently relocated to Chicago, but I try to go back home to Montana as much as I can. I'm a photojournalist. I studied photojournalism at the University of Montana, and I photograph all sorts of stuff. But my favorite thing to photograph are Native Americans, and I photograph powwows, but not that often. I photograph maybe 2 or 3 a year. But I like to try. I like to work hard when I do it. So, it's kind of what I do. But first and foremost, I'm a documentarian. I capture for history, Native Americans alive now today. So,
And your photography does have a unique look to it. See, I'm gonna pull one up here. Let's see, so everybody can see it and kind of get a feeling just what we're talking about here. It is not the average powwow photograph. Let's see, pulling one up here of some young chicken dancers. Looks like it up at Crow Fair.
yeah, those aren't chicken dancers. Those are
Oh, those are crow dancers. Sorry.
yeah, crow style traditional dancers. So, yeah, that's one of my favorite images. I'm looking at it right now on the little screen, so that's why I'm kind of looking off. Yeah, sometimes when I go to Crow Fair, I use a really big strobe, because they let me do that kind of stuff. And this was after grand entry, and they were all just kind of standing there, and they were looking up at it because they were like watching it, waiting for it to like go off and kind of blind them. So they were kind of playing with it a little, and I just got a really great image of them looking up at it. But that's what they're doing, and yeah, it just really shows our style, crow style of our regalia.
Cool. And how did you get in? You said you went to school, but how did you get interested in photography itself?
Way back, I'm a musician. I don't know if you can see the guitars behind me. I'm a musician, and I was just kind of wanted to do a little bit to expand my sort of artistic horizon. And so my mother bought me a digital camera, the first sort of prosumer digital SLR. It's called the Digital Rebel by Canon, like 10 years ago. It was like 6 megapixels, but it was like the first. That was it. And so I just kind of started making photos and falling in love with making photos. And then I was in school, and I really hadn't decided on a major until I talked to some journalists, specifically Jody Rave and Denny McAuliffe, and they kind of just pushed me towards the journalism sort of aspect of photography. So, I was never like an art photographer or a fashion photographer. So almost since the beginning, it's been about documentation and being a photojournalist.
Cool. Lots of people commenting how they love your work. Remember, guys, if you have some photography questions or want to, ask him anything, post it here in the comments. We're reading. And for somebody out there that asked a question, yes, we are live. So ask anything. Ask your photography questions, or your just any kind of questions in general. So let me show another one of your photos here. Let's see. Some of these you capture children, especially, are some of my favorite ones you do. Let's take a look at this one. You really capture. I mean, that is the true spirit of this young lady. It looks like she's just bubbling there.
Yeah, that's one of my cousin's daughters. So she knows me, and a lot of the people and kids know who I am. So it's not like a stranger taking their photos or making their photos. So they're happy. Like a lot of them are just happy to have their photo taken. And I photograph her all the time at the powwows. She camps right next to me, and that's up on the hill of Crow Fair, and that's you can kind of see it, but that's a crow style saddle, and she's on a horse, and she just got done parading, and yeah, just the smiles of kids' face. And I think it's important to capture children, in our regalia to show that our traditions and our culture isn't like fading at all. It's like it's vibrant and it's alive.
For sure. And we got a couple questions. So somebody wants to know some of your tips for action shots, and when did you first started getting noticed out there?
When did I first start getting noticed? I'll come back to that. For action shots, I just it's like studying photography. Like there are sports photographers, and they know baseball. Like I'm going to back up a step and say that I've been instructed and I've been educated by many great photographers and photo editors, and that's kind of how I've developed as a photographer. It's not necessarily just a born gift. It's something that I've worked at, and it's meeting the right people and having them critique my stuff and just learning from established and experienced photographers. And so one of the things that I did once when I was first starting, I shot a baseball game, and I was sitting next to a photographer who won a Pulitzer Prize like 20 years ago, for some, farm stuff. But he was shooting baseball, and he was just kind of talking about how you study the game even though you don't play it. Like, you know what to expect, and that's kind of what I do, or what I've done. Like, I've been around powwow dancing all my life. I was a dancer when I was really, really small, but it wasn't something that I was really into. But I've always watched it, I've always seen it, and so just studying how they dance, and the honor beats, and when they're going to do something really fly, and when they're going to like lift up their fan or something, like, you just kind of like study it, and you learn when they're going to do those moves, and then you kind of just stop the action. You just kind of, it's not an easy thing. So I don't think I can just give you a tip of it, like to go out and make a great photo right away, because it's like a learning process, and you learn and you understand dancing, and then you kind of can learn to expect when they're going to do stuff.
Yeah, I had photographers that kind of taught me too that said the same thing. A lot of people, when they first start out, like to just hold down the button. That they think that's how you take action shots, and that is a place for some of these football or whatever else. But most of the time, you get your best shots when you can anticipate that moment and you aim for that shot instead of just spraying and praying. Yeah, so good. It's good stuff here. Shannon Perkins wants to know, what is your number one tip for new photographers?
Oh, my number one tip for new photographers. I guess just get out and shoot, and find people that are experienced and that are willing to critique your work and to give you positive feedback. Because you can teach yourself, but I think it's going to go a little slow. So I think it's a good idea to find people who are willing to mentor you and teach you and talk about your work. And also get you to talk about your work, to explain why you made an image. So I think that's just the number one tip, is to just get out there and shoot, and try to have your work critiqued and reviewed. And then also, critique it yourself, like learn how to critique your own work, and don't be kind to yourself. And don't expect a photographer to be kind to you. Expect them to really take apart your photos, because that's just how you learn, I think.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. I love watching. I don't know if you watch Kelby videos, but Scott Kelby does some live photo reviews, and he's done that a couple times with Joe McNally, and I love watching those because Joe really talks about what he feels in an image, and just watching him review other people has been great. Just to try to help improve my photography.
Yeah, I mean, it's great, like getting reviewed. I've had the fortune to have like Pulitzer Prize winners review my portfolio, and sometimes they weren't kind, and it wasn't because they were mean. It's just that they wanted more from me, and right. That's what I need and needed, and I constantly need people to tell me what I need to do to try and be better. I mean, yeah, I want to make a great photo, but at the end of the day, though, I want to document our history as Native Americans in our lives, so that in 100 years, you're not looking at a Edward Curtis photo. You're looking at one of my photos, one of my contemporary Native photographers' photos, because that's us telling our story, and we've captured it. And I want it to like stand the test of time. So.
And speaking of other great photographers, Bert Crowfoot has snuck in here, and he wants to know what your favorite lens is.
Oh, my favorite lens. Well, I think he knows. I don't know. Maybe he doesn't know. But my favorite lens is, here, I'll show it to you. My favorite lens right now is a Canon 24 millimeter. What's it called? I don't even know what it's called. A 24 millimeter f1.4 L2. Like, I love wide angle. So this is my favorite lens right here, right now. And my second favorite, I guess, would be a 50 millimeter L right there. That one. I love that lens. In the last few years, I've transitioned from shooting from a 24 to 70 lens to 2 primes, One, because I really didn't utilize the zoom function on my zoom lens because I was always shooting wide to basically get the whole background image. I like to have my photos have like depth, like a background, a foreground, and a middle ground, and a sense of place in my images. But yeah, that's my favorite photo, or that's my favorite lens right now, is a 24 millimeter lens. It's not so wide that it kind of distorts everything, but yeah, it's my favorite. Thanks, Bert.
Yeah, if anybody wants to go check out some other great Powwow photography, make sure you go check out his stuff. His is pretty good.
Yeah. There's
Yeah,
a
he's
selfie of
good.
us. Like he came to Crow Fair a few years ago, and we got a really cool selfie together with my GoPro. And
Oh,
I
cool.
like it. So
Yeah, I just saw him recently up in Manitowoc, so he's always out there shooting. Sandra's got a question about I guess the video's having trouble on her end. If you're having trouble watching the video, this will be archived on Facebook. You can watch it again later. It'll be on our podcast feed if you want to go out and subscribe to it on iTunes or Stitcher, and we'll upload it to YouTube. So if you can't watch it now, lots of ways to catch it later. All right, let's take a look at another one of your photos, and if you want to tell us the story behind it. I've always wanted, selfishly, I want to hear the story on this photograph. Can you see that one?
yeah,
It's the,
yeah,
the
I see
yep.
that one. Yeah, that's a cool one. It sometimes it's really really hot at Crow Fair, and sometimes it rains. And I was at camp, and it was starting to rain, and I just walked out, like 20 feet away from my teepee, because I sleep in a teepee, of course, when I go to Crow Fair, because that's how we roll. And I was like, hey, there's lightning. So I just set up my camera, and I didn't have like a timer or anything. So I just kept using a long shutter and just constantly until I got an image. And I was lucky enough to catch that one. I even got that one on my GoPro. It's really cool. But yeah, that's how I made it. It's just, being in the right place at the right time. It wasn't raining too hard, so I didn't have to worry about my gear getting too wet. But that's just kind of being there in the right place at the right time, and kind of knowing my gear, like how to set a long enough exposure, and just trying to get lucky. So
I've had that same kind of experience with some photography, and people afterwards would say, wow, you got really lucky with that shot. But it's more than just luck. Sometimes it's, like you said, it's knowing your gear, knowing where to set up, when to set up, and anticipating that shot, and putting yourself in a place to quote get lucky. You had to have the right conditions. You had to be there right at that moment, but you would put in the years of work so that when that moment happened, you were there to capture it. So I don't. It is lucky, but there's a lot of work that goes into it too.
yeah.
I've got another example up here, and one of the things you mentioned this, but one of the things I really like about your photography is you do tell a story. We can see here that this is taking place in the arena. We get a kind of sense of what's going on, and that special little moment between these two.
Yeah. Well, that's my cousin Mary. Not Afraid. I'm a Sings in the Timber, but I'm also a Not Afraid on my father's side. So that's my cousin and her daughter, and they were participating in a mother-daughter dance. And so, a mother and a daughter, or daughters. I think there might have been one woman with two daughters, and they dance, and they try to dance, synchronized, I guess. And so that's what that was. And they were in between songs, and I happened to be right there, and I had a flash. I don't really normally shoot with a flat, like an on-camera flash, but I had it, and I had it on there, and so I just saw that, and I was just prepared. Again, luck a little bit, but also being prepared, and like observing and kind of knowing a little bit about who they are, and just waiting for it. And yeah.
Yeah, great photo. Got another question. Somebody was wanting to know: do you have any long-term projects going on?
Oh, I do. In fact, I've edited and I've worked on a photo book documenting my tribe, and it's something I started in college for a documentary photo class. And I just kept adding to it, because I go home and I photograph and it's been kind of on the back burner for a little while, just because I need to add more to it. But I've also been really thinking about making a book of crow fair photos, and I started the editing process like 4 months ago, like compiling all my crow fair images into one spot and just going through them. And over the last 12 years, 13 years since I started photographing crow fair, I think I've got between 30 and 40,000 images that I've made at crow fair. And so, I've whittled it down to like 3 or 4,000, and then I just gotta whittle that down until I get to, a nice number, like, 100, 200, that'll be a book, within it, I'll write about it and I'll talk about each photo that I've made because, all my favorite photos, I know I can remember kind of what I was doing and what I felt when I made the photo. So that's kind of what I'm working on right now is compiling like a book, a photo book somehow. And then the next step will be trying to publish it. I don't know. I've never done that before. So that'll be a learning process, but just I'll have, a photo book of crow fair images.
Awesome. Shannon Perkins asking some questions about shooting outside in the dark, any recommended settings, and she also wants to know, if you have a particular camera you would recommend for beginners.
Oh, shooting in the dark, I guess I just use a lens with a really big aperture, like my 24 millimeter. And then, if there are lights like there are at Crow Fair, sometimes I'll use a flash. And sometimes I'll try to get like a gel on my flash to kind of match the color of the arena lights, just so that it doesn't look so different and contrasty. But, try to, get a camera with a nice, a nice ISO setting like that. It still looks good at like 3200 if you want to shoot at night. But use a fast lens, and by fast I do mean one with a big aperture like my f1.4 and my 50 millimeter f1.2. I see your question. I'm trying to look at it. What was the other part of that question?
Camera for beginners.
Oh yeah, I was having this conversation a little bit with my cousin and also my friend Shane, who is from Rocky Boy, because I have friends who ask me, and I try to tell them to get a camera that you can manually set. Basically, you can manually set the aperture, the shutter, the ISO, and also manually focus, because it'll help you learn. But one camera that I really love, and that actually Bert Crowfoot kind of suggested because he was kind of pushing towards it, and not this particular camera, but the brand and the kind, is this cute little Olympus, what's it called? An OMD EM5 Mark II. And I love this little thing. And I think this is great for a beginner. And they make, a lower end model for $400 or $500. And I can't remember what I paid for this one, but it was nowhere near what I paid for my big 5D. And I got this for a couple of reasons. I got this one, because it's so small. And I don't know if any of you know much about me, but I'm a part-time photographer, but I'm a full-time stay-at-home dad. And, I love my kids, and I love taking pictures of my kids. And this fits really well in my diaper bag. Like, it's so small, it's so tiny, and it's not heavy. So when I got, their juices and their food and everything they need, this fits really well in it. And it's really a great camera. I don't want to sell it over too much, but the reasons that I like this camera are: one, is the small size; two, that it's also Wi-Fi enabled, so I can, one, control it from my phone and pull images off of it onto my phone, but also because this cool little LCD thing right here, and it flips in, and I can't see what I'm shooting. So it stops me from chimping, if you guys know what that means. It's like a chimpanzee, and you're looking, I guess, I don't know, but it's called chimping, where you take a picture and you look at it, and then you might miss something going on because you're looking at what you just made. So this is how I shoot this camera, and I love it. I love shooting like this, and I don't use it. And a lot of times I'll shoot completely manual with this, but this is the kind of camera I would suggest. It's fairly inexpensive. And I like shooting with prime lenses. This lens comes off. It's little, it's small, because it's kind of a challenge. For me, I don't want the camera to do the work. I want to do the work, because personally it makes me feel good about what I've done. So, I get a prime lens, and if I want to get closer, I physically have to get closer. And if I need to, oh, it's my kids' bedtime. Anyways, so then they're at the park right now. They're cool. So, I like it. And, it's one of those things that's going to be kind of hard to learn on. Not kind of hard to learn on, but it won't be easy to learn on, because you're doing the work. You're really learning your aperture setting, your shutter speed, your ISO, and how to make the best of a one focal length lens. So, something like this, like an Olympus or a small Fuji, something that you can adjust manually. That's what I would suggest for a beginning photographer.
Yeah, and going back to what you were saying about your 50, if anybody out there has a DSLR, Canon or Nikon, Sony, whatever, you can find 50 millimeters with a 1.8. When you start getting to 1.2, it's a little more expensive, but the 1.8s are pretty inexpensive as far as big aperture lenses usually go. You were talking about your 24 to 70. That's not a cheap lens with the big aperture, but the 50 is a pretty easy one to get into when you're looking to do that, and it'll take you a long way.
Yeah. The thing with lenses too is, and this is what I try to tell people who ask me is you want to invest more in your lenses than you do in your bodies, because my Canon lenses will, outlast this body. This is a 5D Mark II that I shoot with. And I'll be getting a new body here hopefully soon. Hopefully I'll get the new Canon Mark IV or whatever it's going to be called. But I'll still have the lenses and I won't have to worry about that. And, the lens on this one is a really nice lens too. So even if I upgrade, or even if I had a not as good body, I would still have the lens, because in the end, I think your photos are only going to be as good as the glass that the light goes through. So if it's like a cheaper, less well-made piece of glass, your images aren't going to be as nice. Like the moment will be obviously the same. It'll be a great moment, but the light itself won't be as good. And so, if you have to skimp, I think, and this is just my opinion, if you have to skimp, you skimp on the body and you pay more for better glass.
Totally agreed. All right, so we've hinted around a little bit at Crow Fair. It's coming up soon. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about Crow Fair? And I know you're going to be up there shooting. So tell us, how we can watch you and how we can find your photos, those kind of things.
Yeah. I'm Crow. Obviously, can't tell you enough that I'm Crow. And I've gone to Crow Fair all of my life, which is it's between 30. It's more than 30, less than 40 years that I've gone to Crow Fair. And for me, it's not just a powwow, it's not just something like that. It's for me, it's really is a family reunion. And I go and I see my family that I haven't seen, sometimes all year since the last Crow Fair. And that's what it is for me. But then I also get to photograph what I think are the most beautiful people in the world. My people, the Crow people, and our style, like we have our own dance that everyone dances, Crow Hop. So, they call it TP capital of the world, TP capital of the world. And sorry, I didn't want to mumble that, because there are so many teepees and the camp is so huge. And it's, I've gotten lost when I was younger. I got lost because there's so many teepees and it all looks the same. But I love it. There's nothing that for me that beats it. So if there's something going on during Crow Fair, I'm probably not going to go. I would love to go to the Santa Fe Indian Market someday, but if it's during Crow Fair, I'm probably not going to go. And oh yeah, that's a cool image. Yeah, that's 10 feet from my camp again. That's the cool thing is like you can just go 10 feet from my camp and make really sweet images. And I tend to get up really early in the morning at Crow Fair because there's what we have the camp crier. I don't know if anyone knows what that is, but it's basically a man on loudspeakers driving around camp telling everyone to wake up, like 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning, and people have gone to bed like 2 or 3 hours before that. But so I get up early and I go and I find lights and I find, teepees like that. And yeah, that's just one of the beautiful things about Crow Fair is just the culture, or our culture, is so rich, and so like it's still there. So um, yeah.
Cool. And we'll be putting in some of your photos up during the weekend. So if anybody wants to follow along, make sure you check out PowWows.com as well as Facebook and all the social medias. We'll link to everything he posts.
Yeah, I'll be on, Instagram. I have my Instagram page and my Facebook page, and then I think I'll send you some. I'll send you stuff, and it'll be on both of our stuff so that people
Yeah.
can see it. And the tribe, the Crow Fair board is really excited this year that I'll be posting on PowWows.com, and I'll be streaming on PowWows.com. So they're really excited to know that it'll be a part of it, because there's so many of your fans that will get to see it now, and so yeah, they're really into it. So.
Yeah, this is Crow Fair is one of those things that's on my bucket list. Like you said, it is more than a powwow. I've heard about it for years. I'm gonna get up there maybe next year. Couldn't work it out this year, but yeah, it's just seeing the pictures. It's so amazing. I've got to get up there. And there's, from what I understand, there's so much going on that you don't even have to go to the powwow to have an incredible experience up there.
Oh yeah, I had an aunt, I think last year or the year before that. I think she didn't even go to the arbor because she was at camp, like making food and beading and fixing regalia. Like she just never went. I'm sorry, the arbor is basically where everyone dances. And like some of the things that happen at Crow Fair, I'll try to go through them, and I'll probably miss some. But there's the All Indian Rodeo, where all in Native Americans, I guess, not just crows. They take part in like a 3-day rodeo, so that's part of it. There's obviously the dancing that goes on all day, and then on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday is a parade of crows on horseback in regalia. So it's like that image of that little girl. She was part of the parade. So there's that. There's the dancing, and when people aren't dancing, it goes along the Little Bighorn. So there's swimming in the Little Bighorn, and there's always horses walking, and there's just so much to see of our culture that it's just awesome, I think. And yeah, that's a cool image. I love that. There that's always kind of a thing. Like people who obviously aren't veterans or elders that wear war bonnets. But in my tribe, and I have to tell this a lot, is that in my tribe that's acceptable. It's one of the ways that we keep our traditions alive. So and he's not playing anything, like that's his regalia, and so it's part of how we teach our generations, is by allowing them to wear war bonnets. And there's the war bonnet dance where women wear war bonnets, and I think I sent you an image where the women are wearing war bonnets, and we talk about that a lot. And so some tribes, women can't wear them, children can't wear them, but in my tribe, yeah, women and children wear them, but only for special occasions.
And I'm pulling that image up now, and while that's coming up, Bobby Ann Old Crow says thanks for always taking pictures of her dad during Crow Fair.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I think we're Facebook friends. So yeah, it's cool. It's like one of the things about being a crow photographer and knowing so many crows is I'll post a photo, and a few minutes later, I won't have known who that person is, but someone will know that person, and they'll let me know who they are. And so, then it's not just Native boy or Native woman does this, does such and such. Then I can change it and give it a name to the face, and so that it kind of doesn't just make them a generic Native, I guess. It gives them a name, which is something that I like. I think is important for future generations, is to know who we are as a people.
Yeah, it is really important that we document these things, and I like that is part of your mission as a photographer. And we got a lot of people still asking questions. Appreciate everybody. Really enjoy the support. Please take a moment. Getting some really cool information, great tips here on photography. Take a moment, everybody, and share the video out with your friends. Let's see if we can get more people on here and to learn more about this photography and Crow Fair and about the Crow people. and we'll show a couple more photos here. And I'm enjoying the stories. Let's see. Here's another one. Again, talking about the women wearing the war bonnets.
Yeah. That's and I don't know the story behind this dance. I've tried to find out, but and it's a dance that it doesn't happen every year. It happens once in a while. And so it's hard for me to like find out about it, and I've asked, but when they do it, it's great. And it's kind of in the middle of the day when there's hardly anyone there. Like you can see the stands aren't really full because it's after it's like before the dinner break. And so it's really much, it was really much for us, like as our cultural tradition, because there are some powwows that, they're more, I don't want to say it, but they're a little more touristy. But our powwow, and a lot of powwows out west are very much like for us as a people. And so this is one of those sort of ceremonies that happened during Crow Fair. And, it was really cool to see, because it wasn't for everyone. It was like for us as Crows, and also as, the other tribes. 'Cause I think it comes from another tribe too. So it's not like a Crow thing. I can't remember which other tribe that we might have gotten it from or borrowed it from, but so but it is very much like a tribal thing for us. And so we were, trying to, just keep it alive and have it as part of Crow Fair.
Yeah. One of the things that I'm very fortunate is I get to travel around some of the powwows for PowWows.com, and I always enjoy going to the powwows where they show some of not just powwow dances, but the local dances from that particular tribe. I get to go out to Morongo, and I love getting to see the bird dancing and bird singing out there, because that's not something that travels around the powwow circuit. So, I'll encourage people, if you go to Crow Fair, if you go to Morongo or these other places, make sure even Seminole down in Florida, make sure you stay in between the breaks. They'll bring out whatever that. Not all powwows, but they'll bring out some of these local traditions. So that's really a cool thing to be able to see and get a little bit more taste of that local culture.
Yeah, and one thing that I just found out too is that the Crow Fair Board has invited, and we'll have some Oneida smoke dancers performing at
Cool.
Crow Fair. So yeah, and they do that on occasion where they invite other tribes to come and showcase their culture. So it's not just it's not just a Crow thing, and because those smoke dancers, they rock. Like, I don't know if any of you have seen some of my slow-mo videos. I know some people don't like my slow-mo videos, but I think they're awesome. Like, because they're going so fast, like the smoke dancers. And when I like to see it slowed down, because I don't ever see it that way. But yeah, so they're going to have smoke dancers this year at Crow Fair, and I think that's going to be awesome to see, because I love watching the smoke dancers, but then I would love watching them in a very tribal place like Crow Fair in the Arbor.
Yeah. That's going to be great. All right, so I'm going to show an image here, and another thing that I've always loved about your photography is your use of light. And at outdoor powwows, I think sometimes people, or outdoor any kind of photography, people have a challenge with working with the sun. Can you give some tips on how you work with light? I mean, and I think this is a great example of how you have used the sun to your advantage.
Yeah, I just sometimes you just see it like again, I think that's a really wide angle lens. It's like a 16 to 35. I don't have it anymore, but that's the lens that I used. And for me, I'm able to get really close up and look in there. And yeah, like that's sunset. The sun is just coming over the arbor. If you can like see in the background, there's like the shading, and that goes all the way around the camp. And so like there's parts where it's just starting to go low, and just trying to see the sun. And it's just being in the right spot at the right time. But then also knowing where I should be. So I'm always like in that little area where the sun is going to kind of be not to my back, but like to my left shoulder almost. So that I'm kind of looking at it, like it's like an off-camera flash almost, off to the left a little bit. And so that's how I like to use the sun when I'm at Crow Fair and I'm at a powwow, is like evening stuff like that. And then, yeah, during the day, sometimes like that, like the photo that you showed of the Crow Style Boys, I used a powerful enough strobe to sort of overpower the sun. So then the sun kind of becomes sort of not like a rim light sort of, or a backlight kind of thing. So it's not a key light. It's more like a fill light. And so that's what I like to do, because shooting noonday light with the sun, that's tough. It's tough to do. So if you can, so I've been experimenting the last few years of using a really strong strobe to try and overpower the sun a little bit. And it's not easy, obviously, and but sometimes it works. And then you got stuff like that. You just find where the sun is coming through, and just using it like that. And that's kind of a pretty hard edit. I shoot in raw mode, and if anyone knows photography, like our eyes see like a wider dynamic range of shadow and light. And so like when I make the photo, like his face is really dark, but it's not what I saw. What I saw is that. And so then I try to bring up what I actually saw, because I try not to Photoshop too much, because ethically, as a journalist, we don't want to Photoshop and distort the truth, at all. And so I try not to distort the truth in what I see. But yeah, something like that, you just look for it. You just like try to think outside the box and look for things like that with the sun. So
Cool. All right. So I think we've answered everybody's questions. I want to go get my camera now and go shoot some. I'm excited. Always inspirational to talk to you. Any other last tips or suggestions for these new photographers out here, or experienced photographers?
yeah, like there's certain powwow etiquette, I think, when it comes to making photos at a powwow. One thing that I try to do, and that's like not get in the way of the people who are watching behind me, because I'm going to be in front, like I'm going to be in front of everybody, like all the spectators. But I also don't want to like block them. I don't want to block what they're seeing. And I've heard that a lot. Like people have thanked me for not standing in front of them, but for trying to get small and out of the way so people can watch the dancing. Because most of the people that are there, almost everyone's there, is to watch the dancing. They don't want to see a photographer in a big old lens. So sometimes there's a spot for photographers, but if there's not and you have to stand in front, don't get in the way of people that are watching. Because some of them, yeah, they might be tourists, but for the most part, they're probably natives, and they're here to just experience it. And you don't want to kind of disrespect them by not allowing them to see dancing. So yes, try to be kind of like a fly on the wall, I guess. Try not to be seen. And there are times, when I don't photograph, like when they're giving an invocation, like a prayer, I don't photograph it because it's just respectful for me to listen for that moment where they're kind of like they're giving blessings and they're praying for people. So I don't photograph anything. And then obviously when eagle feather drops, don't photograph that, but they'll always tell you, like if you're photographing and an eagle feather, they'll like come out and they'll tell you to stop. But beforehand, it's good to know these things, And the one thing that I think for me and for us as Native people, when non-natives photograph us, is we want to see the images. We want to see what you've made of us, because that's us. That's our people. And so fortunately, I'm part of the community. I'm Native, and so they all get to see mine. But I don't want to say it's rare, but it's almost rare that I'll ever see most of the photographers that come to Crow Fair and we'll see their images. Like they come in and they make the images for themselves, and they don't share with the people. And I think that's really important to give back, not to just come into our communities and and just take images and then go and then pad your portfolio, and try to get famous by that. I think it's important to share the images you've made with the people you made. And I can do that, and I do that by posting, and people in my tribe and other natives know, and so they can see it. And and sometimes they tag themselves and they use them as profile photos, which I think is cool. Like I like seeing my friends and their profile is one of the images that I made of them. I think it's cool. And so if I can stress that, if you're a photographer and you go to a powwow, in any way you can, try to share what you've made with the people that you've made it of. It's just a respectful thing, and it's just what we want, I guess, what we like.
Very well said. Very well said. And you're right. A lot of people do take the images, and it is almost like just taking something and leaving without it. Now with social media and other sites, it is so easy to share. So it's not like you're taking a roll of film and developing it, and there isn't a way to share. It's very easy. Send them to me. I'll put them out there.
Yeah.
But with Flickr or Facebook or Instagram, yeah, share your photos. And it is, like you said, it's documenting these things, and it's the way to preserve and continue the culture. So yeah, I think that's really important.
And also, watermark your photos though, so people know who made them. Watermark it, so that they're not, so obviously they're going to be taken by other pages and shared, and there's nothing that we can do to stop it really. We can ask and we can hope that people are respectful, that they don't take our photos, but watermark your stuff so people know who made that, and so that, yeah, so there's that documentation of the photographer. So yeah, watermark your stuff, protect your stuff, but also share it with the people that you're making the images of. Because you'll see my name, Sings in the Timber, on everything, right? Because it doesn't go out unless it says Sings in the Timber. So,
and for people out there, like you said, they're using these as their Facebook images or sharing them on Instagram, whatever. I think both of us do encourage, take our photos and share them. That's why we're putting them out there. But when you do that, I know for me, I always ask, and I think you do too, is credit the photographer, no matter who it is. Give credit where credit is due. Don't cut off the watermark. I get a lot of people that do that with mine. But if you're going to share the photo, share the credit too.
Yeah, totally credit. I mean, if you can't do anything else, just give them credit. Give them a link back to their pages, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, whatever. Give them a credit, because they're sharing their work too. So yeah, very much.
Well, Adam, thanks again so much.
Oh, yeah.
Great stuff. Really appreciate it, and looking forward to seeing what you're going to do next weekend. It's going to be exciting to watch. I'll be there one day with you, hopefully soon.
Cool. Thank you for having me, man. Yeah, it's great.
Thanks so much. Appreciate it, and we will see you soon. All right, everybody.
All right.
Thanks. Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right, everybody. Thanks again for supporting the show and being with us tonight. Another great episode. Adam just gave a class there on photography, so I hope you learned something, and I hope you'll be inspired to go out and take some photos at your local powwow, or just take it to the park with your kids. Take the camera with you, make good images, and share them with your family and with your friends. Again, I'm Paul Gatter with PowWows.com. Thanks so much for everybody supporting. I ask, if you enjoy the show, please share it, subscribe to it in iTunes, and if you want to go even further and help us continue to produce this kind of content, please go to www.powwownation.com for all the show notes, and to enter to win the lanyard we're going to give away, Powwow Life. Go to www.powwows.com/powwowlife10, the number 10, and you can enter to win there and get all the show notes. We'll have all the photos that Adam discussed tonight there, links to his website, and you can rewatch the show there. Thanks, everybody. Again, I appreciate all the support. Lots going on PowWows.com. Be sure to like us on Facebook or subscribe to the newsletter to find out what all is going on. Thanks so much, everybody, and we will see you down the trail.